If you're studying for Cisco CCNP security, you definitely need hands-on experience with Cisco Firepower. And there are two options available. You can buy the Cisco Firepower appliance, which means you should get the hardware, or you can just download the Cisco Firepower Threat Defense virtual image directly from Cisco, and then use that image to deploy any type of lab that you would like by using a network simulator or emulator like EVNG or PNet lab. So that's what I'm going to show you in this video. We're going to download Cisco Threat Defense virtual image, and we're going to import into PNet lab so that we can have hands-on experience with Cisco Firepower. Okay, so first thing, we're going to download the Cisco Firepower image or Cisco Threat Defense image directly from Cisco website. So we should go to cisco.com, and here we're going to the page downloads, and now we're going to select the product, and that should be threat. Okay, Secure Firewall Threat Defense Virtual. We're going to select this product, and then we're going to select the Firepower Threat Defense Software, that's FTD. And at the time of this recording, the recommended image is 7.2.4. So because we want to import this into PNet lab, I'm going to download this file, Secure Firewall FTD, that ends with the extension QCOW2. That's how I call it. And obviously, to download this image, you have to log in into Cisco website. Okay, after downloading the image, you have to import into the network simulator that you'll be using. So in case you're using EVNG, the steps will be similar to EVNG or PNet. So for instance, for FTD, that should be the folder name. So you have to import the file, and we can see here all the steps. Let's see. So that's FMC. So this one is for FTD. So you just have to create a folder on the network simulator to use this name as a reference, and then change the name of that file to this name. I won't try to read it, and then fix the permission, and that's it. Okay, once you complete the import process, you should be able to deploy a lab just like the one you see on the screen. So let's power on FTD, as I'm going to explain to you also the subnet and the steps that we're going to take. So I'm going to open the console, and here I'm going to select the first option to boot the image. So while it's doing its thing, let me explain a little bit about this topology. So when we deploy the FTD, by default, it will have this interface G01 set to inside interface. And then we're going to set G00 as the outside interface. But what does it mean anyway? So the inside, it acts like as the LAN side. So you probably remember this. So that's the LAN, the local area network. And the outside will be WAN or the internet side. Okay, so this is where the computers, as you can see here, we have two computers, they are installed, and on the outside we have the internet. So that's why I have this router here in the middle acting as the ISP or the internet service provider router. And on each section of this topology, we have different subnets. For instance, by default, the inside interface will be assigned the IP address 192.168.45.0/24. That's going to be enabled by default, but we're going to disable or remove this subnet to use this one. So I'll be using the network 192.168.10. So those computers, they are already in the subnet. So PC1 has the IP .1, PC2 has the .2. So the firewall will have the IP .254. So this is the last octet, by the way. So their default gateway will be the firewall. On the WAN side or the outside interface, we'll have this subnet 1.168.1.0. So the ISP router has the IP.1. So we're going to set the IP.2 on the WAN or the outside interface of the firewall. And we have another subnet between the ISP router and this web server Linux, and it is the subnet 1.168.2.0. So the web server has the IP.2 and the ISP router has the IP.1. So all of these other devices, I've already configured them so that we don't waste time. Now, there is another subnet, and that's the ETH0 management. So this is the management subnet that I'll be using to manage the device remotely, so that I don't have to manage from the inside or the LAN side of the subnet. So my management interface or my management subnet is 192.168.43.0, and we're going to assign the IP address .16 on the subnet for the Firepower. Okay, now this process of booting might take around 20 to 30 minutes. So once it's finished, we're going to continue. Okay, the installation is completed, so now we can log in into FTD, and we're going to use the default credentials, and they are username admin, and the password is capital A admin123. Okay, and we are inside. Okay, so now it's going to present us with a couple of messages, so just going to accept that. Just press yes. So the first thing, we have to change the password. So I'm just going to change to a new password. Okay, it didn't match. I'm going to do this again. Okay, so now we're going to configure the management interface. I'm just going to confirm yes. I don't want to configure IPv6. I want to manually configure the IP address, and I'm going to change this to 192.168.43.16, and the net mask is going to leave as 24. The default gateway is going to be 43.1. The host name will be our FTD-1, and I don't want to use these DNS servers. I don't have domains. Okay, so let's see if everything is okay. Now, obviously, if you have DNS server or domain name on your network, you might want to type those values there, but this is a lab environment and I don't have these at the moment. Now at this stage we have to be very careful. Okay, so it's asking if we want to manage the device locally. Now to manage the FTD, we can use two options. We can either manage it locally by using what is referred to as FDM, so that's the Firepower Device Manager, or we can use FMC, that's the, I believe, Secure Firepower Management Center. So we're not going to use the other option, FMC, we're going to use FDM. So we're just going to confirm, press enter. So it means that we're going to manage FTD locally. Okay, and it looks like the first configuration was successful. So now let's see if we can actually reach FTD through its management interface. So my computer is on the same management subnet, so we can reach the management IP address of FTD. So I'm going to open the browser here. So I'm going to try to log in to 4316, and hopefully we should be able to see the graphical user interface of FTD. Now we might receive a warning because by default FTD will use a self-signed certificate. So we're just going to confirm and click on advanced and continue. Okay, so no worries there, and it looks like it's okay. So this is the Secure Firewall Device Manager. Okay, let's log in by typing the username admin and the password we just changed. Okay, and we are inside FDM. Now here we also have to go through initial configuration step. If you have internet connection, you can go through these steps even if you don't have internet connection, because it's asking whether you have internet connection to register this firewall or firewall. But even if you don't have, we're going to proceed. And there are two steps to, well, there are two ways we can continue. We can either use this wizard, or we're going to configure everything from scratch, like assign the IP address, assign the interface. Just to make things easy, let's use the wizard. So let's see what are the options we have here. So the outside interface, if you remember, I pointed out that we have the outside interface. That's going to be the WAN side. So that's going to be G00 on the firewall. So we're going to change to a manual input, and the IP is going to be 111.168.12. The mask is going to be 24. The gateway will be 1.168.1.1. So that's the ISP router. We're not going to use IPv6. So yep, everything is okay. Let's continue. Now it's going to try to reach the internet, and it's going to fail, but that's not a problem. We're going to continue anyway. So after a couple of minutes, you will see this error message that was trying to reach cisco.com. That's not a problem. Again, I don't have internet connection here, so we're just going to confirm and proceed. Okay, lastly, we have to enable the evaluation license for this firewall. So we're going to select the evaluation period for 90 days. So it means that we'll be able to use this firewall for 90 days without registration at all. Okay, so that's awesome. So then we have to select the tier. So there are different options. So this is related to which functionalities you'll be able to use, the number of cores, memory. So I'm just going to leave the first one. That's going to be FTD v5. Just keep it simple. Okay, and then we're going to click on finish. Okay, the firewall is ready to be used, and optionally we can select it to be managed using a cloud subscription, or we can just use a standalone device. Again, we're just going to use a standalone device and click on got it. Okay, so what can we do now that we have this enabled for 90 days? So I'm going to walk you through a very basic configuration process. And so first, let's see what do we have configured on the interface. So if we go to routing, we should see that we have a default route towards the ISP router. And if we go over here on the CLI console, okay, we should be able to run a couple of commands like show route, and we should see these outputs just to confirm what we have. So we have a default route towards the outside interface, and that's where the ISP router is located as well. We have, so this is our IP address, and we have the subnet 192.168.45 on the inside interface. So let's change that to match the subnet that we want to 192.168.1.1. So we're going to close this, and we go back to device FTD, and let's select view all interfaces, and we should see the G00 and the G01 interfaces, and it's taking some time to load. Just be patient. Okay, as you can see, we have G00, that's the outside interface. It's working in routed mode, and that's the IP address 1.168.1.2. And G01, that's the inside interface. It is enabled, is working in routing mode, and that's the IP address by default assigned to it. So let's change that. So we go here in the bottom, so we're going to click on this pencil to edit, and right here on third octet we're going to replace to be 1, so 192.168.1.1. okay, so now let's save this, but it's going to throw an error. Okay, and it's saying that we can't actually replace that because we have a DHCP service enabled on this interface. So we have first to delete or edit the DHCP service. Now I don't want to use the DHCP service, so I'm just going to delete this one. Okay, now Once that's done, we're going to save that, and we should be able to use the new IP address. So it says 192.168.1.1. Okay, now let's check again the routing table, and let's see, show routes, and it's still showing 192.168.45.1 on the inside interface. Well, here is the thing. When we make changes on FDM or on the firewall, those changes, they are not applied automatically. Okay, so first we make the changes, and then we have to commit or deploy those changes to the firewall. It's like the changes we are making them on a file, and then this file has to be sent to the firewall. Okay, so now we have to send those changes to the firewall, and to do that we have this option here, deployment. Okay, and it's going to show what are the changes that will be deployed. So in this case, the IP 45.1 was replaced by this one, and we also deleted the DHCP server container. Okay, so let's deploy this now and click on OK. Okay, the changes were applied, so now let's confirm that. Let's go to console and run the command again, show route, and now we can see that it was updated to the correct IP address. So can we ping PC1? Let's see, 1.1. And actually, I did a mistake here. PC1 has the IP address 192.168.1.1. We actually have to change the firewall to have the IP address 192.168.1.2.4. Okay, let me do this real quick. Okay, now it was deployed correctly. Now let's double check once again. So show route, and yep, now the IP is 192.168.1.2.4. And let's see if we can reach PC1. We can. What about PC2? Can as well. Now what about the ISP? 168.1.1. Okay, successful. Now what about the web server? So 1.168.2.2, and it's successful as well. Well, it looks like we can reach the web server. What about PC1 and PC2? So let's go to topology, and let's bring PC1. And let's try to log in into this machine and see if we can reach the web server. Okay, and that should be HTTP 1.168.2.2, and it's working. That's curious, right? That shouldn't. So why is it working already? Because if you recall, this is a firewall, and by default the firewalls, they should deny the traffic. Okay, the thing is, let's go back to FDM, close this, and let's take a look at policies. Now by default, because we use the configuration wizard, it deployed a couple of configuration for us, so such as the policy that allows traffic. As you can see, it created this rule allowing traffic coming from the inside zone, so that's where the inside interface is located, coming from any network on any port, going to the outside zone, that's where the outside interface is located, as the destination is any network on any port and application. Traffic is just trusted. But what does it mean, trusted? Now if you need help, Firepower or FTD has a very useful support page here. So let me see, probably we can get from here. So here we can find helpful information about something that we might need. So for instance, let's take a look at the access control policy settings. So in case we want more detail about these, the default action. Okay, so we see it says trust, allow, and block. And so here this moment it was used trust means that it will allow traffic without further inspection of any kind. So it means that traffic coming from PC1 is being allowed without further inspection. Okay, so that's okay, but this doesn't explain the other thing. If you notice, PC1 is on the subnet 192.168.1.0 and web server is on a different subnet, and so the ISP router also has a different subnet between the ISP router and the firewall. So they shouldn't be able to respond to any packet coming from this subnet. Why is it happening? Now, the thing is that FTD also created a NAT rule. Now, NAT is used to hide IP address that are leaving the inside network towards the outside network. So essentially what is happening is this. So let me bring the diagram here, so that's going to make a lot more sense. So we have PC1 sitting on the inside interface with the IP 192.168.1.1 and is going to the web server, okay, with the IP, let me change that, 1.168.1, and let me just delete all of these and start here. So also I'm going to delete this one. So it's 192.168.1.1 going to 1.168.2.2. okay, so when it reaches the firewall, so this device is the firewall, okay, the source IP of PC1 is being replaced to the outside interface of the firewall. So we have, let me change the color here. So the source IP, when it passes the firewall, the source IP will be 1.168.1.2, but the destination will be kept the same, so it will be 1.168.2.2. okay, so let me see, can I have another one? Okay, let me use this one. So the change is happening on the source IP, okay, not on the destination IP. So that's what we're using dynamic NAT. So any IP coming from this direction, from the inside, it will be translated to the same outside IP address on the outside interface. So, and I can show you this. So let's go to our topology and bring the web server. And let me log into this. And okay, I'm just going to break this and start again. And I'm going to refresh here. And we should see the IP 1.168.1.2. So this is the outside interface of the firewall. Now let's bring PC2 as well and do the same test. So let me log in and open the browser and see if I can reach the web server as well. So that should be 168.2.2 and it was successful. Now what about the server? As you can see on the server side, it says that the source IP that is connecting to this web server is the same, is 1.168.1.2. So it essentially means that the source IP address will be always translated to the outside interface on the one side of the interface, okay? So we can also take a look at the logs on the firewall. So if we go to monitoring and network overview, we should be able to have some traffic already captured. So we see the transaction rule. So this is from the inside to outside rule. So that's the only rule that exists in the moment. The top destination, so that's the only destination, that's the web server. We can click this to have more details, but the only thing we have are the rules that are hitting on this destination IP address. As you can see, this is a very easy approach to start using FTD or Cisco Firepower directly on your home lab environment. Now, if you took value from this video, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, and I'll see you in the next one.